If this goes on, don't panic. Bringing hope to the world through speculative fiction.
Hello all, this is Alan, and today we have a conversation between myself and Oghenechovwe Donald Ekpeki discussing his new concept of Afropantheology and what it means for the speculative fiction community. We also chat a bit about ICFA, which is the International Conference for the Fantastic and the Arts. Really quick, I need to make one correction. I mistakenly misnamed Oghenechhovwe's new book. The correct name is Between Dystopias, The Road to Afropantheology. And in case you didn't know, Oghenechhovwe is a NAMO, otherwise Nebula, and British Fantasy Award-winning editor and author. He has also been nominated for numerous other awards, including the Hugo Award. You can find his most recent release, Africa Risen, anywhere you buy books. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to share us with your friends and family or on social media. All right, here we go. I really wanted to chat with you this time specifically about Afropantheology, I guess a new concept that you're putting together. So can you tell us about that?
Okay, it's pretty simple actually. It's a portmanteau of Afro and Pantheology. Afro basically means African, as simple as that. Mm-hmm. Pantheology is the study of religions and bodies of knowledge associated with religions and gods. So Afropantheology is essentially the combination of the two, this study of African religions, gods, and bodies of knowledge. So in the speculative fiction context, it's stories that draw from the African religion, bodies of knowledge, and gods, if you will. So, yeah, that's essentially what it is by definition. Unless you want us to go into what exactly it does or is supposed to do, or.
Oh, yeah. My next question is, what's your philosophy behind it, and, why do you think this concept is important to science fiction and fantasy?
Okay, yeah. The idea behind Afropantheology, or more the purpose, what it serves, what it aims to do, is there's been a devaluation of African culture, religion, and bodies of knowledge. It's a function of colonialism. Mm-hmm. It's a type of colonialism. Suppressing our stories, suppressing our cultures, and replacing them with something else. So, and that happened with ATR, what we call African traditional religion. The missionaries, Christian missionaries, Islam as well. And, these dominant religions had a lot to do with replacing, expunging African religions and bodies of knowledge. And it did so by literally demonizing, most of our law, most of our stories, most of our cultures, our deities, So basically, Afropantheology aims to correct erasure, that suppression, mm-hmm. To give voice to all these stories, to bring back all these stolen gods, literally, because at the time, a lot of religious symbols, a lot of religious items were taken, which are now in museums in the West. But it's not only our items that were taken, our stories as well were taken. So Afropantheology aims to bring back these stories, to correct the erasure, and to make, to properly frame these stories as we're bringing them back as what they are. It's one thing to have your stories. It's another thing to have them be recognized, to have their source or their origin acknowledged, So we don't just want to have these stories, which is why we're not going with mythology, we're not going with fantasy or any other term, which isn't necessarily inherently bad, but calling them pantheology frames them properly as what they're supposed to be: spiritual realities, bodies of knowledge, religions, not just, imagined stories, not just made up stuff, So that's the purpose. It's been an age-old thing. It's a debate. It's an issue that has been long talked about in African literary, cultural, religious circles. It's something that transcends the genre, that transcends literature. So, that's the purpose or the aim of Afropantheology.
All right, thank you for that. So, how would you compare that to Afrofuturism?
Okay. Well, I would say that it's the same thing. Afrofuturism talks about time. It talks about Africans in the future, Black people in the future. But you see, the thing with time is not, people often consider time as a straight line. We have a linear way of thinking of time, but I tend to think of time more as a cycle or a circle, something that it connects. It's not just one thing. I believe that thinking of time as a straight line is a limited way of seeing it, And so futurisms and origins are connected. There are different points in time depending on where you are, And I believe that we're constantly shifting between these different moments, these different spectrums on the time scale. So, we talk about origins, and religion deals a lot with origins. How did we come about? We often talk about how life originated on the African continent. And so we cannot talk about futurisms without talking about those origins. You have to understand where you are and, where you are on the time stream to be able to understand where you're going to be, how the future is going to shape out. And you also have to understand where you're coming from, to be able to chart your course. It's like they talk about ETA, you talk about, let's take Google Maps, for example. If you're going to calculate how long it's going to take you to get to your destination, you have to first of all pinpoint where exactly the journey is starting from, and then understand where you are in the journey at every point in time. So we cannot successfully navigate or enact successful futurisms without pantheologies. And we often think of bodies of knowledge as split between science and religion, but it's not necessarily like that. What separates science and what's considered fact from the spiritual, and what is considered not. It's our level of development at any point in time. Which is what I talked about. This was the topic of my keynote speech as the ICFA guest of honor earlier this year, and it's a really long speech. I'm not going to be able to rehash all of it here, but the key point, I think, is that you know what they say: sufficiently advanced technology can seem like magic. So what we consider religion or religious or unfounded might just simply be bodies of knowledge that we don't completely understand and haven't yet had the time to systemize. So, I think it's in our best interest to consider, pantheologies along with futurisms and look at them holistically.
That sounds super interesting. I'm looking forward to finding out more about this. Speaking of which, your new collection is going to be called Between Two Dystopias: The Road to Afropantheology. So, why don't you tell everybody like when you plan to have that out and like what kind of stuff do you expect to be in there and that sort of thing?
Okay. It's actually titled Between Dystopias, not Two Dystopias, because there's a
Ah,
lot more than two dystopias, you know.
I don't know. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's African speculative fiction. It's the story of the continent, which is very diverse and it's non-monolithic. So there definitely are a lot of dystopias which have played out in the history of the continent, which is rife with slavery, colonialism, and a lot of other traumas that we've experienced. And, you know, in between that, there's the lore, there's the religious and spiritual beliefs and practices which have been fighting to not be erased, fighting for survival, amidst all the colonialism, neo-colonialism, and everything that's going on. So in between all these different dystopias, lie our pantheologies, So the collection is basically a collection of stories, as the name implies, about taking elements of a pantheology, mixing it, and trying to chart a path, through those incidents, those bits of trauma that exist, and charting a way back to our culture, our history, and all those things that are indelibly part of us that we must retain and allow to flourish.
Right, great, great. And you also have someone, Joshua Amenga, helping you out. Are they also contributing, or is he helping you edit, or how's that working?
It's a joint anthology. We both have separate stories in the anthology. Then we have stories that we wrote jointly, that we co-wrote in the collection as well. So he's an old friend. He's a writing partner. We were classmates in the University of Lagos Faculty of Law so I've known him for about a decade. We've shared ideas and goals, and we've been in the hustle together. So he was a copy editor for the Dominion anthology
Oh, okay.
and the Bridging Worlds nonfiction anthology. He contributed to the Africa Reason anthology, and so we've had substantial collaboration, over the years.
Oh, okay, great, great. That's fantastic. It's always great to pull in a close friend to help you out with some cool stuff like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you publishing the collection yourself through your publishing company, or are
Yes.
you cooperating with somebody else, or how's that going?
Okay, it's both of them actually. My
Okay.
I run Jengbe Fola Press, which published
Hmm.
the World Fantasy Award winning Year's Best African Speculative Fiction and the Bridging Worlds anthology, which was nominated for the Locus Award. I have a new publishing imprint, Ekpeki Presents, which is a Pantheology imprint, the first Pantheology imprint. So it's going to be publishing the collection and the volume 2 of the year's best African speculative fiction anthology. It's going to be handling, Pantheology works, as the name implies. Yeah, but it's not doing that alone. It's co-publishing it in collaboration with KZ Books, an imprint of Akman, run by Shahid Mahmood. So, but plan to roll out a number of other works in future, but we'll be starting with my collection and the year's best African speculative fiction, volume 2.
Yeah, great, great. Are you allowed to talk about your future plans, or no? Is that
I mean, yeah, pretty much what I've talked about.
okay?
Publishing a lot of texts, a lot of work. As a matter of fact, I had a plan to roll out, to announce a line of works that I'll be putting out, both long fiction and short fiction, but that was derailed by my recent events with Customs and Border Patrol of the US. So, you have to, exactly like the title of my collection, you have to deal with your dystopias. It's not a straight line. It's not a straight journey. It's not an interrupted journey. So there's been interruptions, but we keep pushing.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta say, yeah, that is one thing that you are fantastic at.
Thank you.
Sure. So you mentioned being at ICFA. Can you tell us all what that was like and what it's like to be the guest of honor at something like that, and how that went?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
amazing, even though it almost didn't happen. At the last minute, I found out I wasn't going to be able to attend physically because of visa issues. So we had to make everything virtual, which we didn't plan on from the start. So I had to record my speech, which basically meant rewriting it because
Sure.
delivering in a different medium is quite different. So I had to basically rewrite the speech in very short time and record. I had a couple of panels. It was an amazing event. I gave a keynote speech where I talked about Afropantheology and its connection to Afrofuturism and its purpose in reclamation of culture.
Great, great. And then you've recently received an appointment with them as well. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, I'll be the next virtual conference coordinator. Yeah, VICFE. They had the first one. Their first virtual conference was last year. The guest of honor was Tinanarif Due.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll be organizing the next one, which is taking place later this year. I think in November. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. And I had the pleasure of interviewing Tanana Reeve Dew before as well, and she's quite a force of nature.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. Well, that's all I've got for today. Thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.